We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
What do you do when you don't want to completely blow your life into a million pieces, but you also can't imagine living it this way for another 10 or 20 years? You've spent decades building your career, your financial security, your home, relationships, and of course, you want to protect those things. But you also know that something has to change. And that leaves you caught between two options that feel impossible. Either keep going exactly as you are, or walk away from everything. But today, I want to talk about the space in between those two extremes and why you may need to step away before you can see what belongs in your next chapter. Hello, and welcome to How to Travel Full-Time, the podcast about how to use travel to create a life that feels more like your own. I'm your host, certified professional coach, TEDx speaker, and New York Times featured travel reset catalyst, Heather Markel. I'm excited to help you lean into your own transformative travel experience with tips, real-life stories, and strategies from someone who's been living the travel lifestyle since 2018. Let's jump in. Throughout August, we've been exploring a theme I'm calling the life that doesn't fit anymore. So we've talked about why I'm expanding this podcast beyond just full-time travel. We've looked at why time away might become an important part of the future of work. And I talked about the Harvard Business Review podcast along with that episode. And then in the last episode, we explored the guilt that comes with outgrowing a successful life. So today I want to talk about what happens next. So great, you've recognized that something about your life feels wrong. And you realize that your dissatisfaction goes deeper than needing a vacation. You may even admit that the life you built no longer reflects the person you've become. But then comes the question, what am I supposed to do about it? This is where it's easy to get stuck. Your current situation feels unsustainable, but the imagined alternative feels terrifying. You don't want to quit impulsively or risk your retirement. You don't want to lose all your stability that you worked so hard to create. But you also don't want to wake up 10 years from now and realize that fear made the decision for you. As an accomplished professional, your mind will often create two extreme choices. Option one, stay. Keep the job, the routine, honor all your responsibilities, and hope the dissatisfaction eventually goes away. Option two, leave. Quit your job, sell your house, pack a suitcase, buy a one-way ticket, and announce a dramatic reinvention on social media. Neither option feels right. Staying makes you feel suffocated. Leaving feels reckless. So you remain exactly where you are. You know that expression, stuck between a rock and a hard place? It's totally false. And extended travel is what taught me that there is always a third option. But we have to train ourselves to see it. Because the real issue is not the absence of choices. The issue is that stress narrows your ability to see them. So when you're exhausted and immersed in the same routine every day, your mind struggles to imagine solutions beyond continuing or escaping. But you need perspective before you need a permanent answer. And perspective often requires space. And successful people tend to be really good at tolerating discomfort. I know I was. Here's what you're probably experiencing. Look, you know how to push through. You meet deadlines while exhausted and solve problems before anyone even notices them. Those skills built your career. And they can also trap you in a life that stopped fitting a long time ago. Because every time dissatisfaction shows up, your confidence steps in. You reorganize your schedule. You set a new goal, try a new class, or join a sports league, maybe book a vacation. And you tell yourself next quarter will feel different. And then the quarter ends. Another one begins, and the feeling hasn't changed at all. Competence can help you function in a life that no longer suits you. But functioning is a very different experience than flourishing. You might be performing exceptionally well while feeling increasingly absent from your own life. It is such an odd experience to receive praise and feel like they don't even see you or how unhappy you are, despite the fact you've done a great job. There's another reason that this decision can feel so difficult. The life you've outgrown may still provide very valuable things. A good income, health insurance, 401k, a predictable path towards retirement. And walking away from those things carries real consequences. Your concerns deserve thoughtful planning. At the same time, stability has a cost when keeping it requires you to abandon your curiosity, your energy, or your sense of self. A secure life should support you, but when maintaining that security consumes your identity, it begins to function like a cage. A very attractive cage, perhaps, one with direct deposit, great dental coverage, and enough airline points for an upgraded seat. But it's still a cage. So the question becomes, how much of your life, your well-being, and your happiness are you willing to trade for all of that predictability? And your answer may be some of it. Most adults make compromises. The more important question is, does the exchange or compromise still feel worthwhile? Now, if you recognize yourself in this tension, I'm offering a free webinar called How to Use Travel to Transform Your Life, even when you have a busy career. I'll show you how intentional travel can create the time and perspective to reconnect with yourself, clarify what needs to change, and explore a more aligned next chapter while protecting the stable parts of your life. This is a thoughtful process designed around your actual career, responsibilities, resources, and future. You can register using the link in the show notes below, or you can visit heatherbegins.com and you should see a pop-up where you can register. When people consider taking time away, they immediately calculate the risks, like the cost, the impact to their career, concern about how friends and family will judge them, maybe even fear that they might regret their decision. And these are valuable concerns, but they represent only one side of the equation. And until you venture to the other side, you will stay stuck. The other side asks questions like, what will staying cost me? What happens if another 5 years pass the same way? What happens to my health, my energy, my creativity, and confidence if I don't make a change? And what happens when I repeatedly ignore the part of myself that's asking for change? I can tell you from personal experience, for me, ignoring the question for years caused me literal physical pain. And I do not recommend waiting for that to be your catalyst to make a change. Staying feels passive, which can make it appear safer. Yet, staying is still a decision. And every year spent maintaining a life that feels wrong has a cost, even if that cost doesn't appear on a bank statement. It could show up as exhaustion, irritability, disconnection, resentment. and you deserve to include those costs in your calculations. People often assume that they need to identify their next career or life plan before taking time away. But that expectation creates a lot of pressure. You're already tired, and now you expect yourself to design the rest of your life during, lunch breaks and Sunday afternoons? But clarity doesn't usually show up on command. I know I spent years trying to find another job instead of quitting, but I could never find a job that lit me up. I didn't know what I wanted to do instead, and no amount of self-help books or conversations helped me. Sometimes the wisest next step is a pause rather than a pivot, because a pause lets your nervous system settle down a bit, and it allows you to notice what you miss and what you don't miss, and to see which parts of yourself begin to reappear. Travel is especially powerful for this purpose because it interrupts familiar patterns. Your surroundings change, your schedule changes, and your assumptions are challenged. That's a big one. And you begin making decisions based on curiosity rather than habit. That experience can reveal possibilities that were invisible from your desk at home. Another thing I found about extended travel as a part of this process is that I unexpectedly learned about all the beliefs I was carrying in my mind about life and work and money that just didn't work for me anymore. A travel reset can become like a temporary playground for your next chapter. You can experiment with a slower pace. You can discover how you feel with fewer possessions, fewer meetings, or less external validation. You can spend time in a culture with a different relationship to work, community, and time. And side note, by the way, that whole concept of time is one that can really make you appreciate parts of your own life and culture, and also greatly respect how others value it. You can study a language, volunteer, create something, or just hear yourself think. You can also discover what you value about your current life. A travel reset does not have to dictate your future. It just helps you meet the version of yourself who will make those decisions. Now, transformation sometimes gets presented as a dramatic rejection of the past. Real transformation, in my experience, is more of a meetup between past and present, and deciding how they'll help you create your ideal future. Your goal is to identify what still fits and what no longer serves your life. You may want to preserve your marriage, your financial foundation, professional relationships, home or community connection. And you may also want more autonomy, adventure, creativity, and time. These desires can all coexist. Your travel reset can be designed around the stable parts of your life that still matter to you. That might mean negotiating a sabbatical, using accumulated leave, renting your home temporarily, choosing a reset length that fits your financial plan. So thoughtful planning is what gives you room to change without treating everything you built as disposable. So here's a reflection question to ask yourself this week. If you knew that you could keep the parts of your life that still matter, what would you finally give yourself permission to reconsider? And then ask yourself, what are you genuinely protecting and what are you maintaining simply because it's familiar? And those answers might be different. Familiarity can feel like safety, especially when you've spent years building a predictable life. But familiarity tells you what you already know, and space allows you to discover what else could be possible. So if you feel caught between the I can't keep doing this and I can't walk away from everything, I created my free webinar for you. Again, it's called How to Use Travel to Transform Your Life, Even When You Have a Busy Career. And during the webinar, I'll introduce you to my 5-step travel reset planning method and show you how to approach time away as a purposeful transition to figure out next steps. You'll learn why a vacation may provide relief while leaving the deeper problem untouched. How to identify what you want extended travel to change, and how to build the practical plan around the reset you actually need. Your path could involve a month away, several months of travel, a formal sabbatical, or a longer transition. The starting point is understanding what your urge to leave is trying to tell you. Register for the webinar using the link in the show notes below this episode. So in closing, you may want to keep many parts of your current life. You may also be ready to change the way those parts fit together. There is a middle ground that exists, and you can pause before you pivot. You can explore before you decide. You can protect your future while becoming curious about what else your future could hold. Once you can name what feels wrong, you can begin creating something that feels like you again. Talk to you next week. Thanks for listening. If this episode got you wanting more information about how to create the space for a travel reset, I invite you to visit the Travel Reset Planning Library. You'll find practical resources to help you explore where to go, what your reset could look like, how to afford it, and how to start planning without creating 17 spreadsheets and a small emotional support binder. You'll find the link to it in the show notes. And be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Until then, remember, you don't have to blow up your future to create space for a future that fits you better.